in this video, we're going to focus on how we can create what we call an OHLC chart, which is the open, high, low, and close chart with a line in here. And also we're going to create these volumes here below, and we'll match them all together into this single chart here using the wonderful Chartjs plugin called the Chartjs-financial chart. So let's start to look how we can use this and start to create this nice chart. So let's start to look how we can create this candlestick chart, or more specifically the open, high, low, and close chart with a line using the Chartjs-financial plugin in Chart.js. Because I'm working offline, we're going to have, I will show you the files where you can get them, but I have the files stored offline. So the first thing what I want to do is I want to go here and go to chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link. You can find as well in the description box. And we're going to scroll down here and copy here the boiler template. And if you want to understand what this code all does, make sure you watch this video here. So then I'm going to paste this in here. I will cut this out and put that in here. So I'm going to save that, refresh. All right. Of course, because I'm working offline, I need to change this one here. So I will have to change this into Chart.js if I'm not mistaken. No. All right. I just have to get the source codes. Let's get those. I'm going to get all those, and I'm going to explain how you can get those as well. Let's put that in here first. All right. If I save that, there we are. So we have the first part, and I will explain afterwards these here. So don't worry about that. Then what I want to do is I want to say here 80%, save, refresh. And what we're going to do now is basically getting the other functionalities or other JavaScript libraries. We have the one here, the Chartjs. We already have done this. Next, what I need to have is the date FNS. So how can you find this? Well, if you go here to Chartjs, you click on ecosystem. Once you are here, you will go here on, you will come onto awesome, and then scroll down here, and you will see here two items, the date FNS. Click on that one, and you have another one here is the financial plugin. Where is that? The financial chart or candlestick. I can't find it. Let me just say here candlestick. All right, financial in the charts category. So this is the financial plugin. So if you are going on the date FNS, if this is the date FNS, or this is the financial chart plugin, you can find it here somewhere in the source. If you cannot find it, what I'm going to recommend you is to go in here, open this demo, and then get the source code from there and look at what the JavaScript file is. And you get something like this. This is the core file of it. So once you did that, another one is of course to get here the date FNS adapter, which is just scroll down here once you're on this, the second line, this one here, the Chartjs date adapter date FNS bundle min. Alright, so this is the files you will need. So what I will do is, because these I already prepared in advance as offline because my internet is not working, so I'm going to just put that in here, and well, you can just copy this, put that in there, and cut out this, and put this in here. Save this, refresh, nothing happens, but we have now the files that we need. So what we're going to do now is we're going to scroll down here, or at least within here, and let's start to work on creating the candlestick or the open, high, low, and close item. So to do this, what we need to do here then is to create a proper structure. So in here, what we can say here, maybe the stock price or something like that. And then what we're going to do here is in the data, I'm going to remove this, put enter, and then in here, we are going to put in a structure where we have basically 5 variables. The first one will be the X value, but this X value will be based on the time. And later on, we have to change the scale here because it makes sense. Every value here should be in time. So let's put in a new. What we're going to do is we're going to create first a date object, date. And then we're going to say here, well, let's grab here what we have now, 2020, well, I guess 22. And then we can say here, what is it, August right now, and then August 10 in this case. And then, once we did this, I'm going to say set hours. And the reason why we do set hours is to make sure that when we have this time, it will be set into the current local time zone basically. So, or you will see them, because what will happen if I only grab this, it will grab here, including my Greenwich Mean Time hours, which is +8, meaning that instead of expecting here to be start at 12 o'clock in the morning, it would be +8, it would be 8 a.m. in the morning. So I don't want that. I want to just reset it just on day. Of course, for a stock, you might say, well, why is that? You might say change that to your time, or I think when the stock market opens, it's 8:30, 9:30, or 10:30, or something like that. So just check on your preferences. However, for this, we're going to do set hours. Why 4 zeros? Here we say we're going to do it on 12 midnight basically. So this is the hours, the minutes, the seconds, and the milliseconds. So everything will be in here. So now we have this. Then next, what I want to do is I want to have the open price. So let's say this is $1 or one, whatever the currency would be. H, let's say 135, comma, and then we have the lowest point, and the lowest point here would be maybe 1, or let's say maybe 0.90 cents. And then we have a closing here, and the closing is 1.20. All right, so we have this here. So once we did this, and if I save this right now, refresh, it will not work. Why it doesn't work here now is, well, basically this scale here is not correct. So let's solve the scale. I'm going to scroll down here. In the scale, what we have to do here is on the X scale to convert the object into or the scale object into a time structure. Not anymore like this, is what we call a category axis. So we're going to convert it into a time structure. So we're going to say type will be equal to time, or sorry, not even time, but I want to use here, in this case, time series. Why time series? Because think about the stock market, we have sometimes the hours, or sorry, not the hours, but the days where the stock market is closed, like the weekends. Time series will structure the scale in such a way that's equidistant, or in other words, equal distant. So it will not consider if you have a skipped value. This is very important to remember. So then we have this, and then we're going to use here the time object, and we're going to say here now the unit, and then maybe here we can say day, doesn't matter so much, maybe string here, and say comma. Well, I guess we can just leave it like that. If I save this, refresh, all right, we get this now here. It starts to show something here. Let's start to work on this now correctly. So we have all of this here. What I want to do then is I want to have here multiple values, say comma, put in that, comma, that, comma, that, and comma here. Let's say how many do we have? That should be more than enough. So I say 11, 12, we'll make this 13, and then I want to skip 2 days. Here 2 days, this will be 15, will be 16, and 17 will be the continuation here. All right, we have all of this now. Let's start to fix here some items, because right now if I do this, you can see here it doesn't really work yet. Don't worry about that. I guess if I go here down, the type, we need to change this. So I say here, the type will be open, high, low, close. Save that, refresh. All right, it starts to work, but I'm not satisfied yet. We're not done yet here. So let's start to work on this. First of all, let's change this a little bit. So we're going to say here, this will be 120. I'm going to grab all of those, and then we're going to say here, this will be high, and then let's say here low, and then we're going to make this 110, and then here we're opening 110, and this will be 155, and this will be, let's say 110 as well, and then we're going to say here, this will be a very good day. We'll make this 40. All right, and then here we have 40, and then this will be 40 as well, and then we go down here. Maybe we're going to say here 1.1, and then we can say we're going to close on that time. That's all right. And then here again 1, 2, and then we say here 155 again, and then we go here to 150. This should be then 110 or 111, and we do here 155 as closing. Then here 155 will be open, and we close at 2 exact. And here I guess what we can do here, I'll just say here this will be 155, and this will be 2.2, 35. Save, refresh, and then you can see here we have all of these different items here. Alright, so that starts to look very nice here. We have to later on fine tune this because this doesn't look good. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values, and you can see here the difference. We jump here from 13 to 16, but the space calculated is just equal, so what we call an equidistant. That's the term, equidistant, or in other words, equal distance here. Alright, so now we have those. What I want to do now is continue on. We have here all of these colors, but these colors are now have no value because we have pre-assigned colors here. As you can see, it goes up and down. If it goes up, it's green. If it's negative, it becomes red. So next, what I want to do then is I want to put in a line here. So I'm going to put a comma here. I'm going to put a new data set, and I'm going to do some movements later on. So this is very important. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to say, first of all, type, because I want to say here we have a new type of chart, or basically not a chart type, which is the line chart. This here, I want to move this right now. Let's move this up. Go here up and put it in this data set here. So this should make the chart still work, and it should be no real difference. Let me just save this, refresh, and as you can see here, all right, it does something, but don't worry about that. We're going to fine tune this point, but it does still recognize it here. So we can just say here, for example, comma, I'm going to say here max value. Let's make this 10 for now. Save, refresh. All right, 10. Well, this should be maybe 3. There we are. That looks quite decent, and that is still acceptable. What we're going to do now is to add up the other items. So I say comma here, new data set, and I'm going to say here type will be a line. We need to do this because we want to say now we have a new item that is a line, and this line can be our what we call our, let's give it a label, and this label will be our moving average of 9 days. Let's do that one here. Put a comma. Then what I want to do is I want to grab the data. So what is the data we need? Well, think about it. We'll be needing the date to specify, but secondly we need also a y value, and the y value would basically indicate the line where the line will continue on. So that's just the basics. So what I'm going to do is, this must be of course always identical, so I need this one. I'm going to just grab this here, and I'm going to say your data bracket, and then in here curly braces, and then say your data for the x, a comma, and what we can say here is y, and let's say moving average y is 1. So once we did this, we're done here, or at least done with the first one. I'm just going to put this all nicely together, and then I go to comma here, and I'm going to duplicate this until we have again 6 data points like here. So 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so that's 11, 12, 13, and this one was 16 and 17, and I'll just keep it all in 1. So if I save this and refresh, you can see here we get this line, but of course the line has no color yet, and we should fine tune that a bit. So what we're going to do now is just assign some colors. So what we can do here is, I guess we can just get it a color. What we can do with the color here, let's say border color will be, let's make this blue. If I save that, there we are. Next, what I want to do here, comma, and we can say here, you can see these points. I don't want these points, and I also don't want the hover. I don't care about the hover of this one. I'm more concerned about the hover of this. However, you can see we get this error here of undefined. So this is the only tricky item here. This somehow creates an error. So I might have to make eventually, and now that will be a separate video, a custom video for that, where we can customize just the data in here, because for some reason it just doesn't recognize it. So what we're going to do here now, let's say point radius, because I want to remove that, I'm going to say 0. So if I save this, refresh, you can see there's no more point, but if I hover, it still triggers. So we're going to say point radius, and then the hit radius to remove, also 0, so to remove the item, make sure that this is hit, not hot. Refresh to remove the hovering effect here. Now as you can see here, the hover effect is now completely gone. Alright, we have this. What I would like to do, maybe here this, maybe eventually have to remove that one, but that will be a separate video as well. But we could make this a line here. And what we could do as well, let's copy this. put that in here. You can do here maybe 21, and then this should be 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, and then maybe 150. Alright, and then maybe here, because you can see here, this should maybe move eventually, because if I save this right now, refresh, you can see it's very elastic, or sorry, it's not elastic. It is the tension is very high, so I only want to increase the tension to make it elastic. So I'm going to say here, tension, and the tension should be 0.4 for this here as well, but maybe it's not necessary, because it's these kind of things, maybe these kind of curvy lines is not necessary. Anyway, I'll just make this red. Save, refresh. So we have this here, and I guess the number 3 is slightly too high. I just like to put this on 2.5, staying within the range here. If you want to increase this more, of course, because we had to force this because of this here is not being recognized as the height for some reason. This is just not working correctly. Alright, what we're going to do next is we have this here, but I want to fine tune this here, because look what's going on here. We have some issues here. So what I'm going to do here on the X, I'm going to say, or sorry, not even on the X, in the options, I'm going to say offset. But let's see if that works here, and I'm going to set this on false, save, refresh. Alright, this doesn't work. I need to do it on the scale probably. And the reason why I'm doing that is basically to make sure that we have not the excess space. Oh, offset, comma, did I forget a comma here? Yes, save that, put a comma there, save, refresh. Alright, so now we have this here, and then here there might be something else what we could do, and that's another trick as well. We're going to do a minimum, and the minimum will be equal to this date here. So, in here, we're going to say min value, and the min value will be, let's grab the value that we have. That's this one here. I'm going to grab this, and now I'm 100% certain we can do this even more easier. This is maybe a bit too much of a date object, and we could probably have an array or something like that that is already pre-loaded with all the things. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's probably not a video. But I'm going to put that in here. Save this. Refresh. There we are. So now we have this proper range of starting here, and although you don't have the tooltip here, and here, if I do here, do I get this? No, I don't get that one. This one I do, but this one I have hard time. Alright, it's possible. But as you can see here, it doesn't show here the full item. We could do this maybe on 9, and then there we are. And what we could do here maybe is we can say the max. Basically what we could do with the formula, I guess here, let's see what's the formula on this one. I'll just leave it, but we could do the formula. We can just say here then 17 plus 1 day or something like that. Let's see, I'm surprised. That is of course not min, that should be max. Save, refresh. Alright, so now we have the range property, and that's more than enough for now. What I want to do next is, imagine we have still a volume of, before we even do that, we have to solve this one here. Is the legend, we're going to do it under the scales, comma, we're going to say plugins, then we're going to say here legend. And we're just going to do here quickly, we're going to say here, if I'm not mistaken, it's the label. Then use point style, because what I want to have is the lines. So I say here true. If I save this, I should see here a default of circles, but it doesn't. So that means that probably I didn't have, I don't have to put it in the labels. If I save that, and there we are, that also doesn't work. Alright, so use point style equals true. Let me double check this. Alright, I was very close. It is not label, it's labels, my bad. So I'm going to say this, cut out this, put that in there. Test, if I save that, there we are. So now we get these, but I don't want this, I want lines. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say comma and then say here, point style line. This is a string value, save. There we are. So now we have that, although this one here is very tough to see. I guess there's nothing at all, so maybe this should be eventually removed. But anyway, that's for now. So now we have this here, and if I open up my console log, you will see we get an error here because of the undefined values of the tooltip. So that is a separate video for that. So now what I want to do, and that was the final request here, is how do we get another item here, let's say a bar with the volume, because the volume will be then here below. That's showing, for example, this stock, whatever the stock price is of this chart or the stock, we have, let's say here, 1,000 stocks being sold or millions. So let's start to work on that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going up here, say comma, and then what we're going to do here is putting in a new item, and this item for the volume, or at least the type, will be a bar type. So we say here bar chart, bar. Then what I'm going to say here, comma, let's make the label, and the label will be volume, and then next what I want to do in here is, well, first of all I need to have the data values, and the data values is an array, and then of course similar to what we have here above. So I'm going to just grab all of that, put it in here, but now I'm going to change the values here. I'm going to increase them because these are the volumes. So I'm going to say here this will be 1000 items. Let's say this is 1200, and it's growing, many people are buying stocks or something like that, etc, etc. So we're going to say here, and let's keep this somewhere in that range. Alright, so now if I save this and refresh, of course it gets an error here, or at least this is not an error. It assumes that we're going to put the same value within here, and now it hits the top. Why? Because it's volume of 1000. And if I go here and we are going to hide the max, save that, refresh, you can see here, oh, it even doesn't work as I expected. But if I would do a max here, let's say 2000, save that, refresh, you can see here we get this, but they are now stacked or almost collapsing on each other. This one's so compressed because this is such a low value here. So what I want to do here is I need to have this independent. So this is a separate part of a chart, or sorry, this is a separate scale. So we're going to stack the scale, and this is very important to understand. We're going to stack this scale. So how are we going to do that? First of all, I need to make sure that all these values in this bar type is not considered within our current scale, because this is just too high. But this will be a new scale, and this scale we're going to call this our we're going to say y-axis ID, and I'm going to say this is the volume scale. So there's a new scale that we have created. It's called the volume scale. If you do this, now you can see here it starts to work better. However, it's still right now identical values, so we have to now stack them on top of each other. So what we're going to do here down, then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a comma, and I'm going to say a volume for the new scale. Remember, because we created here a new scale, and this scale name is volume, and that is basically now a new object. This is here, and let's say here the max, I'm going to put this back on 3. Here we're going to just copy this, put that in there, and just see how this will respond once we have this. Well, first of all, we have the begin of 0, and then what we have to do as well is we have to say here the type will be linear. This is important because it's a number scale. So if I save this, refresh. Alright, so now we're getting something that's slightly better, but it's not yet stacked. You can see the values are different from each other, as you can see here, but they're not stacked. So let's stack them up. So it's a comma, and then what I'm going to say here, stack. And this stack we can give it any name. And I'm going to give just stock, but you can give it anything. It could be Apple, whatever stock name. You can do anything here. But what you have to do is this name must be identical here, at least this and this. If not, they will be considered as two separate ones. But we're now really saying if we want to stack this one on that one. So if I save this, refresh, you can see now what is happening. We're stacking the volume on top of Y. And you look at this here. I don't want this. I want the volume being down, meaning that I just need to move this here. So I'm going to cut this out. Just put it here. There we are. Save. Let's escape that one and refresh. Oh, forgot a comma here. Make sure you put a comma. Save, refresh. Alright, so now we stack them, but here's another but. The size of this is just too much compared to that. I want this one to be very, very narrow. Maybe here down, let's say 25% should be this, and the remaining should be the upper scale, which is the Y scale. So the volume scale should be smaller. So what I'm going to say here is the stack weight, which is basically the ratio, would be 1. And this one below here, the stack weight will be 3. So this is 3 times the size of whatever this is. Save this, refresh, there we are. So now we have this, and we can fine tune this more. You can see here this one hits exactly 1500. We could say here for the max you could do here something else, or if you want some extra space you can say here grace 1. Save that, refresh. You can see here it will give us 1 additional segment or tick additional here, so we have some grace area or space. So now we have this here, and I think this is now really nice. There we are. You can see here we have all the bars here at the bottom. We have this one here at the very top. And that's basically how you can create this wonderful plugin chart with the financial plugin tool here, with the line, moving average lines, and of course with our volume at the bottom. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you're ready for part 2, I will have another part here, because one thing I don't like and what I realized that I should solve is, for example, here we have this here, but this should be maybe colored based on whatever we have here, or at least this would be green, red, green, red, green, green. So that will be in the next video. Once I have that video up, you'll see it here popping up somewhere.